You should be serving us. My mother Eleanor's screech cut through the crystal chimes of the Oak Ridge Estate ballroom, turning 40 prominent city council members, real estate developers, and local reporters directly towards me. Look at you standing there in that stiff, ridiculous jacket, pretending your little government job makes you better than the family that fed you, while your brother built our real estate legacy from the ground up. I stood motionless beside the carved marble pillars in my crisp army dress uniform, my spine locked straight, my thumb tracing the cold steel edge of a tarnished brass compass engraved with the numbers 88 Delta hidden inside my pocket. Around us, the annual Oak Ridge Civic Gala was in full swing, draped in golden silk and velvet banners celebrating my younger brother, Julian. A 10-foot portrait hung over the orchestra stage, showing Julian receiving the mayor's medallion for community leadership. Beside my mother stood Julian himself, swirling a $60 glass of scotch, his designer suit flawless, giving me a smug, pitying smirk that set my pulse racing at a steady, tactical baseline. Mother, I came here because you sent a priority courier to my station claiming Dad's military pension trust had been frozen by federal auditors. You said if I didn't personally authorize the emergency land release for the Oak Ridge North development before 1900 hours, Dad's medical care unit would lose its funding tonight. Eleanor let out a sharp, theatrical laugh that echoed off the vaulted ceiling, gathering a circle of eager onlookers. I used that fake emergency because it's the only way to drag a selfish, delusional parasite out of her military quarters. You haven't contributed a single dollar to this family since you ran away to join the army 8 years ago. Meanwhile, Julian sacrificed his entire youth running Oak Ridge Properties to pay off your father's catastrophic debts. Julian stepped forward, resting a comforting hand on Eleanor's diamond-draped shoulder, looking at the surrounding crowd with practiced, remorseful sorrow. It's all right, Mom. Eleanor has always suffered from deep military paranoia and resentment. She can't stand seeing our family thrive while she lives on a government stipend. Evelyn, just sign the land transfer release. Stop holding our father's memory hostage for your ego. The crowd erupted into hushed, venomous murmurs. Board members shook their heads in disgust. Reporters leaned in, snapping silent photos of my medal ribbons. Julian leaned closer, his voice dropping so low only I could hear it over the string quartet. Sign the papers, Evelyn, or I'll tell the press your discharge was triggered by a mental breakdown in Iraq. My deployment wasn't in Iraq, Julian. It was in the Al-Anbar logistics grid, and Dad never owned Oak Ridge North. The land title was registered under the 88th Infantry Medical Trust. Before Julian could answer, the silver double doors at the back of the hall slammed open with a heavy metallic reverberation. A tall man in a dark trench coat walked briskly down the center aisle, his heavy leather boots thudding against the polished parquet floor. He wore a faded combat infantry badge pinned to his lapel, his face scarred along the jawline, his gray eyes locked directly at my mother. It was Sergeant Major Marcus Vance, a combat veteran who had served alongside my late father 30 years ago, and a man who hadn't stepped foot in Oak Ridge in over 15 years. The entire ballroom fell dead silent. Eleanor's face flushed pale white under the chandelier light, her hand trembling so violently her champagne glass rattled against her rings. "Sergeant Major Vance?" Julian stammered, his confident posture wavering as he glanced nervously at the ballroom security team. "What is this? This is a private civic function. Security, escort this man out." Marcus didn't even turn his head toward Julian. He walked straight past the city council members, stopped 2 paces from my mother, brought his boots together, and produced a yellowed, wax-sealed military ledger from his coat pocket. "Mrs. Eleanor Vance, 8 years ago, you filed a sworn affidavit with the Department of Veterans Affairs claiming your husband, Master Sergeant Arthur Vance, died without a designated beneficiary, allowing you to seize his full combat estate and the 400-acre military reserve.
Because he was my husband, Eleanor spat, her voice trembling with rising panic. I had every legal right to liquidate his assets to support his children.
Arthur Vance didn't die without a beneficiary, Eleanor, Marcus said softly, his eyes cold as flint. And he didn't leave Oak Ridge Properties to Julian. He placed the entire land deed into a protected military trust assigned to the soldier who saved his life during the 2008 Depot ambush, the soldier carrying Compass 88 Delta. The room collectively gasped. Julian stared at me, his mouth opening in absolute shock, his scotch glass sliding from his fingers and shattering against the marble floor. "That's impossible," Julian yelled, stepping between Marcus and the crowd. "Evelyn was 18 in 2008. She was in high school." "Evelyn wasn't the soldier who saved him," I said quietly, taking 2 steps forward and pulling the brass compass from my pocket, setting it heavily on the brass podium beside the microphone. "Dad wasn't saved by a stranger, Julian, and the money you used to buy your real estate empire didn't come from Dad's pension." "What are you talking about?" Eleanor shrieked, lunging forward as if to grab the compass, but Marcus stepped smoothly into her path, his towering frame blocking her completely. "6 months ago," I continued, my voice echoing clearly through the ballroom speakers, "I requested an internal audit of the 88th Infantry Casualty Fund after noticing a monthly transfer of $12,000 leaving my officer pay account under the label Family Assistance. I thought I was paying for Dad's private nursing home in Oregon, but when I checked the Oregon facility, I discovered Dad had passed away 4 years ago." A horrific wave of murmuring swept through the council members. 2 city reporters immediately raised their recording devices, capturing every word. "You lied to me for 4 straight years, Mom. You kept Dad's death secret from me while I was deployed overseas. You forged his signature, suppressed his military death certificate, and used my automated combat hazard pay to fund Julian's corporate lines of credit." "You're lying. You're fabricating military documents," Eleanor screamed, her voice cracking into a high-pitched panic as she looked around at her wealthy friends who were already backing away from her in horror. "Julian, call our attorneys. Shut this down." "Julian can't call his attorneys, Mrs. Vance," Sergeant Major Marcus spoke up, opening the yellowed ledger to reveal a series of encrypted military transfer logs stamped with federal seal overlays. "Because 3 hours ago, Criminal Investigation Division agents raided the headquarters of Oak Ridge Properties. They found 22 forged wire transfers bearing Captain Evelyn Vance's stolen military signature alongside the original deed to Oak Ridge Reserve." "No, no, Julian told me the land release was clean," Eleanor sobbed, turning wildly toward her son. "Julian, you said you had the legal clearance." "I did what you told me to do," Julian yelled back, his face contorted in terrified desperation as he pointed a trembling finger at his mother. "You ungrateful coward," Eleanor screamed, lunging at Julian and striking him across the chest with her beaded handbag as the high society crowd watched the prominent family destroy each other in real time. Before either of them could take another step, the double oak doors burst open for the final time. 4 federal agents, accompanied by state police officers, marched down the aisle, their badge lanyards gleaming under the crystal lights. The lead agent walked directly up the stage steps, pulling a set of heavy steel handcuffs from his tactical belt. "Eleanor Vance, Julian Vance," the federal agent announced firmly, "you are under arrest for multi-year federal wire fraud, stolen military pension embezzlement, forgery of military discharge credentials, and corporate identity theft." "Get away from me," Eleanor shrieked as an officer secured her wrists behind her back, the sharp metallic click-click echoing across the silent ballroom. "Your society's bank accounts were frozen an hour ago, ma'am," the agent replied coldly, leading her down the steps toward the door. Julian offered no resistance whatsoever. He collapsed onto his knees on the velvet carpet, sobbing uncontrollably as an agent cuffed his hands, his prestigious mayor's medallion dangling uselessly from his neck.
as my mother was paraded past 40 of her former peers who were already pulling their investment contracts and filming her downfall. She locked eyes with me one last time, her face twisted in desperate, hysterical pleading.
Evelyn, stop them. Tell them it was a mistake, she cried out, her voice echoing down the hallway. I'm your mother. You're supposed to protect your family. I stood rigid, my shoulders back, my hand resting on the tarnished brass Compass 88 Delta, watching her fade into the cold night air outside. My family, I said softly to the quiet room, was built on honor, Mom. You built yours on a lie. Sergeant Major Marcus Vance stepped beside me, placing a strong, steady hand on my shoulder, giving me a brief, proud nod of veteran solidarity as the remaining guests stood up, breaking into a solemn, respectful applause for the officer who had finally brought the truth to light. I took a deep breath of the cool winter air drifting through the open doors, feeling the heavy burden of 8 years of psychological deceit lift from my chest, replaced by the unbreakable peace of earned justice. You cannot build a life of genuine success on the stolen sacrifices of the people who trusted you. For 8 long years, I allowed my family to manipulate my sense of loyalty, believing that my silent financial sacrifices were keeping my father alive and preserving my family's honor. I let them belittle my military career, attack my character, and steal my hard-earned combat pay because I mistakenly believed that family bond required unconditional tolerance of abuse. But manipulative, entitled people do not see your generosity as love. They see it as weakness to be exploited. They will drain your resources, rewrite history to make themselves the heroes, and attempt to destroy your reputation the moment you demand accountability. Real justice doesn't come from seeking petty revenge. It comes from standing unshakable in the truth, refusing to enable deceit any longer, and allowing the natural consequences of people's choices to catch up with them. Never sacrifice your integrity to protect those who actively destroy yours.